Welcome back. Today we are in the Oblitaran dungeon, and that means our first public enemy is going to be Candelabros. You probably remember him from the flag we did previously. He's got a ton of offensive stats and an attack strongest, so he is going to be our first target, and then our second target on the list, or at least our second kill priority, is going to be Flurgy. He's got an attack weakest. Now, since I run my character as a bait tank, I bait out those weakest attacks, and that makes Flurgy not the worst thing in the world, but he's still on the list and he's pretty easy to take out. Now here we're seeing the first boss of the dungeon. Each dungeon is going to have 3 bosses, and so this is Gugamens. He's the easier of the 2 options, and I do believe you can get any combination of the 3 bosses. But he doesn't do a ton of damage. In fact, I usually use him as a bit of a punching bag to try to get up some SP. Scuttles, on the other hand, he can do some decent damage because he's got an attack target, and he's also got an attack random. There's not any counterplay that you're going to do to that, but that is why you would want to bring Redirect either on your character. If you're a tank, you can get it on your meta rune, or if you have familiars now that we've got augments, you can get the augment on the skeletal lining, and then in that case you will be good to go. So this will be the first boss down. Again, there are 2 more bosses remaining. We'll see the other boss a little bit later in this run. As far as my character, you'll see all of my details at the end of the video, including the familiars and the augments that I brought as well. But my character is around 5350 for total stats, and my Waccoms are packing pretty strong augments. Now, as always, I'm going to sneak around. I would ideally fight all of the trash mobs or the non-boss groups, and ideally I'd be saving the shrine that you saw right before the final bosses, but oftentimes the maps just won't allow that. Now here we have Marm, so she is a healer, and she's got a attack all skill, so since her damage is spread out, I'm not too worried about her, and I'll use her as a bit of a punching bag. Findle, on the other hand, he can do a decent amount of damage. He's also got a heal as well, and so he's a little bit more of a priority. His attack skill is the second attack weakest skill that we've seen so far in the dungeon, which gives us even more value out of running a bait tank. And then again, to clarify, with a bait tank, what that means is you have as much damage reduction as you can possibly get. However, you're going to keep your stamina as low as possible while still being able to survive the content. Therefore, all of the attack weakest skills are going to go towards your bait tank. The other equally as important aspect is that points that don't go into stamina can go into your attack power, and the value of your pet proc is going to be based off of that attack power, so that means you can have more healing output if you're using a defensive pet like I am. Now, why are we running this difficult dungeon, you may ask, and that's because the rewards. Even if you're not interested in the Starweave ring, you're still getting 5 total stats, which is a pretty good value for running a dungeon. And of course, the Starweave ring itself is very powerful in that it reduces the amount of set items required for a set bonus by 1, and it opens up a lot of diversity for your build variety, especially for DPS players. Now here we have engaged the second boss in the run, the second of 3 bosses. This is the Trilogy. He's got an attack strongest and also a 1 SP heal skill. And this one is the one that usually breaks the group. It's very common that you lose a familiar, and I just did right there. So I'm going to heal him back up and just try to get at it. The most difficult thing is usually what will happen is his damage output is so high that you get heal locked, and what I mean by that is since his damage is so high, you just keep spamming heals and taking damage and spamming heals, which is what you actually don't want to do. You want to stay as offensive as you can, well, without your team just getting completely melted. And I'll show the augments later, but I'm benefiting a lot from having a per turn augment where even if my guys do cast a heal, I've still got a chance for my augment proccing effect to keep some damage rolling out. And so 1 familiar dead, and we've got 2 bosses down, so we are in decent shape to keep going here. And I've still got the shrine, which I'll be using that right now to top off before I hit the final boss. So this is the third of 3 bosses. Unfortunately, I got 2 of the trilogies, and again, they're a big pain in the butt. Now, Trepan is the last one, the last but not least guy that we haven't seen yet. He has an attack strongest. He can also hit the first 2 enemies, so I might actually cycle out my second familiar and rotate them to the back if I feel I need to, but he can put a decent amount of damage as well. And then these 2 Candelabros, very, very DPS heavy, so I want to try to snipe them out as fast as possible. Now you're probably saying to yourself that the Starweave ring looks great, so how do we go about making it? Well, all of the components are going to come from tier 9 content, the first of which is going to be the ancient material that you get from completing the Oblitaran dungeon, and then the mythic materials you're going to need 5 from trials, and the level of trials has been changed to 440. You're going to need 5 mythics from raid 6, which is Mallowdale, and you have to do that on heroic, and then 3 mythics from world boss Orlag, and 3 mythics from the netherworld world boss also all in heroic. And once you have exchanged at least one mythic from all of those, you'll be able to unlock the recipe in your crafting tab. And of course you'll want to up to your Starweave from tier 9 to tier 10, so that means you'll have to upgrade it completely, and then you'll have a similar recipe requiring a mythic item from the tier 10 raid, tier 10 trials, and tier 10 world boss. And if you're not going for the ring, completing this dungeon will allow you to set your starting point in trials to 1101, which is convenient. As promised, I'll show you all the augments and the gear used, and at the time of making this video, a fair variety of setups have been able to clear the dungeon, including DPS players. Now by the time this video goes up, GVG should be live, so you'll be able to catch me on stream if you want to see some GVG action on Friday or potentially the following Friday, depending on the length of the GVG event. A friend slot will go out to the first subscriber to comment on this video, and as always, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.